Good evening, conference. Good evening. Happy New Year. Happy New Year. Quite a protest outside. Must be that inclusive, diverse, welcoming Leicester I've heard all about. You know, I was thinking on the way here, what am I going to say? I've got 15 minutes. They've given me 15 minutes. And one of them backstage, they said, listen, Professor, whatever you do, don't bore them with your statistics. I said, well, you know what? We could talk a lot tonight about what is wrong with Britain. We could talk about the immigration numbers, which are absolutely bananas. Net migration of nearly 1 million people. We could talk about the fact that of the 2.5 million people who came into Britain in recent years, guess what percentage came in on a worker visa? 15%. 1-5. We could talk about how mass immigration is actually making this country poorer, not richer. Even the Office for Budget Responsibility now admits that every low-wage, low-skill migrant coming into Britain is costing the British taxpayer between £150,000 and £1 million over the course of their lifetime. We could talk about the small boats. Up 25% on last year. More than 150,000 illegal migrants entering Britain, breaking our laws, treating the British people with contempt, undermining our claim to be a self-governing, independent nation that protects the British people and our children. I thought I could talk about the economy. Big tax, big regulation, big debt, low growth, the fact that we're about to enter a recession, the fact that the Labour Party are lying to everybody about what they were planning to do before they won the election. We could talk about the fact they've just taken winter fuel payments off pensioners to save £1.5 billion, but at the same time we're paying £5.4 billion on our broken asylum system. It's absolutely bananas. And then I could talk about the fact that we can't seem to deport any foreign national criminals who are breaking our laws in this country. The latest one was the Albanian burglar who spent New Year's Eve celebrating in a London nightclub. He'd already been convicted of burglary, and he wanted to taunt the British state by making videos on TikTok. We can't deport him because he's applied for asylum. And he's using the ECHR to stay in the country. It's absolutely bananas. It's absolutely bananas. And I thought I could just sit here tonight, stand here and talk to you about what's wrong with Britain. But then I thought, I'm not going to do that. I'm not. Because this will become the biggest collective therapy session this country's ever known. I thought, I'm going to build on what Nigel Farage mentioned in his New Year message. I'm actually going to be optimistic about the future. And I'm going to try and convince you that when you leave tonight, you should feel optimistic about 2025 and the next few years. Now, what are some of those reasons? Well, let's look at America for a start. We're about to see the return of somebody who is going to take on the deep state, who is going to control his country's borders. Who is going to bring down immigration, who is going to tackle woke ideology. Who is going to root out the obsession with diversity, equity, and inclusion from all of our public sector institutions. And I think Trump really does matter, because 5 years from now, or 4 years from now, at the next general election, when people say in this country, you can't deport illegal migrants, people will be able to say, Donald Trump did it. You can't get rid of woke ideology from the institutions. Donald Trump did it. You can't stop teaching our children that little boys can become little girls and little girls can become little boys. Donald Trump did it. You can't take on the deep state. You can't replace the managerial class. Donald Trump did it. There's going to be a really important watershed moment in Western politics. And look across Europe. The mood is exactly the same. Millions of people rallying behind anti-establishment political parties that are saying enough is enough. We don't want mass uncontrolled immigration anymore. We don't want our borders to be porous, to be open to people who we don't know. We don't know what they believe. We don't know where they're from. We don't know why they're coming. We don't want our children being told that they should be ashamed of the countries that they come from, that they should be ashamed of their history and their heritage and their cultural inheritance. And you can see it here too. Let's be honest. You can feel the energy. Energy never lies. There is something happening out there in this country. You can feel it. That's why we're here tonight. That's why we're here. This party polled 14% at the general election a little over 5 months ago. It's on 25% in the national polls today. 25%. This party won 5 seats at the general election a little over 5 months ago. According to the latest poll yesterday, it's going to win 120 seats in the House of Commons. Because something is happening out there. And to people who say, well, the idea that Nigel Farage might become Prime Minister, the idea that Reform could win the next general election is for the birds. I'm here to tell you, I don't think it is. I don't think it is. We've just gone in 5 years from a big Conservative majority to a big Labour majority. That tells you something. It tells you that the people out there are restless. They're not tribally loyal to the old parties anymore. They're looking for change. They're looking for a revolution to join. They want to take on this system. They want somebody to address the problems that they are having to deal with day by day, but the elite class in this society never has to deal with the consequences of. So something is about to happen. And I think it's going to take a lot of people by surprise. You can even see it in the debate we've had over the last week on social media, the big debate about grooming gangs. What I call them, I just call them the rape gangs. And I was looking at legacy media journalists, some of whom are in the room today, complaining about Elon Musk talking about this issue. I have a message for the legacy media. If you'd been doing your job, if you'd been pursuing truth, if you'd been looking at what is happening in this country, we wouldn't need Elon Musk to intervene. It's outrageous. It's outrageous. Elon Musk has done us a favor because now the truth is unavoidable. It's not about who said it first. It's about how we bring about change in this country to make sure that our children are protected and defended. And I can tell you this much. There was only one party at the last general election that was saying openly and proudly that it would deport dual nationals in this country convicted of the grooming of children, and that was the Reform Party. I'm just going to say it as it is. if you rape our kids and you've got dual nationality, you should be thrown out of our country. Here's what I think we should do. I think we should do exactly what the Reform Party has said and what Nigel Farage said on X to Kemi Badenoch, I think only 2 days ago. We need a full national inquiry into this issue. We need to start naming and shaming public sector officials who turned a blind eye, who didn't take this issue as seriously as they should. We need an inquiry, we need to deport dual nationals, and this is my personal opinion, not the opinion perhaps of the Reform Party, I don't know, but I think we should have a monument in the heart of Westminster, like we have monuments for Grenfell or Windrush, a monument to the victims of the grooming gang scandal, so that the ruling class in this country the people in the corridors of power, forever have to be reminded of their failure, their consistent failure to protect and defend our children. So look, don't leave here tonight and feel pessimistic about the country. Feel optimistic. A revolution is coming. Change is coming. Millions of people like you are out there joining this political party. 166,000 people have become members of Reform. It's enormous. The polling is changing day by day. So let's leave tonight. Yes, we're worried about our country, but we are optimistic about the change that is coming. Let's do that change. Let's deliver that change together. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Matt. Our next speaker is our candidate in the 2025 election for the newly created Mayor of Greater Lincolnshire. Please put your hands together and welcome Dame Andrea Jenkyns.
Believers in Britain, the People's Army. What a joy it is to be here this evening. And you can feel the energy, the bulldog spirit, you must agree. Now, do you know, it reminds me of these unforgettable days of Brexit. Now, have we got any Brexiteers in the audience? I'm in good company then. Now, like those glorious days of Brexit in 2019, you know, I can feel the energy building, I can feel the momentum, the optimism, and the buzz. Now, it's coursing through this movement. And we can see it in the packed halls here today. We can see it in the growing membership. I mean, the membership numbers. I mean, was you like me looking at Twitter on Christmas Day, Boxing Day, and being obsessed with seeing us overtake the Conservatives? Because I certainly was. Now, we also can see the sheer panic gripping Keir Starmer and the Labour government. They know that their time is up, and they know that they slipped into Downing Street by default by the apathy of the British public. Now, they know that people see through them. They despise their mediocrity and they long for real leadership. And so I'm proud to be part of this bold and brave party. And do you know something? I haven't felt happier. It was, I think, last time I felt this buzz, this amazing feeling part of something was in 2019 when we got Brexit. So I'm so proud to be here. Now, I'm proud to stand with you, and I'm proud to hold Labour to account every single day. I don't want to hear any more of Starmer's drone-in mediocrity. And I don't know if you agree, but I think they are squatters in number 10. And the sooner we kick them out, the better. It's easier to hold it. Now, every day we are actually getting closer to that result. I mean, I feel it, do you? Now, thanks to you, the great British public, you care deeply about our country, just as I do. And every day, every hour, the People's Army is expanding. And as I said, it feels like 2019. Again, the optimism, the buzz, the energy. But do you know, this time it's different? We're not waiting in the wings. We're on the pitch and we're leading the charge, and we will save Britain. Now, these elections in May are a great opportunity to send a message to both the Labour Party and the Conservative Party that they have let Britain down. And I'm saying that as my old party, actually. And it's time that this country, it gets back on its feet, and only reform can do that. Now, I'm proud to be standing as a Reform candidate to be the Mayor of Greater Lincolnshire. Now, despite what the Conservative candidate's saying about me, now you need to actually Google him, believes in raising all these rainbow flags. The only flag I want to see is raised is the British flag, the Union flag. Now, Lincolnshire is a place I went to school, college, university. I worked hard. I had my own business there. I taught children in local schools. And I was a councillor, actually, in the area where we've got our first MP in Lincolnshire, in Boston, our fantastic Richard Tice. So it's great to be back there. Now, I'm also the only candidate out of those who's been declared with Labour, Conservative, etc., who's got a footprint across the whole of Greater Lincolnshire. I'm talking about the north, the northeast, and Lincolnshire itself. Now, as Mayor, I would be responsible for 1.2 million people in Lincolnshire. Now, I want to see us become a blueprint for common sense and demonstrate that reform are ready for government. Now, this is why it's an important election. Now, in the coming weeks, I will launch my Common Sense Manifesto for Lincolnshire. And just as Elon Musk, have we got any Elon Musk fans in here? He's a man who I admire. And just as he is preparing to launch the Department of Government Efficiency in Trump's administration, I will form Lincolnshire's equivalent. I will root out the woke, the bloated spend in local government, and I'll ensure that British taxpayers' money is well spent. Now, I don't know if you agree with me, but I say no to spending your hard-earned cash on diversity officers. Yes to filling our potholes and investing in infrastructure. I say no to Miliband bankrupting Britain with his net zero madness. I say no to Lincolnshire being a dumping ground for pylons. And I say yes to energy security and food security and investing in our robust flood defences in Lincolnshire. And I say no to a quarter of social housing going to migrants as it does in Boston. That's a quarter. And yes to addressing the needs of local residents whilst ensuring fairness. We should be putting our veterans into these houses. Now, Lincolnshire needs a government that works for them, not against them. It's your money. It's taxpayers' money, and we must never, ever forget that. Now, that means cutting waste, streamlining bureaucracy, and focusing on what works. Now, I will bring common sense back to our country's energy policy, prioritising our people and our industries. Now, Lincolnshire needs a mayor who will not just trot out the party line. Now, for those of you who know me, I do not trot out the party line. I called for 2 prime ministers to resign when I was a Conservative Party member. Don't worry, I won't do that with Nigel. I think he's great. Now, we need a mayor who will shake things up, who will be bold, and actually, metaphorically, blow the doors off the cushy status quo. And I'm that person. Now, to the people of Greater Lincolnshire, I will fight for you. I will fight for common sense. I will fight to secure our children's future. And I will stand up for our country's doers and strivers and ensure that we have low taxes. Now, Reform UK has already laid out a roadmap for real change, freezing immigration to ease pressure on housing and public services, scrapping this net zero madness that push up our energy bills, and delivering a skills agenda that will boost our economy and secure our children's future. And I will start by delivering in Greater Lincolnshire. Now, ladies and gentlemen, we are building something extraordinary here, but we need more soldiers in the People's Army. So if you believe in doing what we're doing, and you love this country as much as I think you do, then please don't just sit back there. I want you to get out there, no more just nodding along. Get involved, bring your friends, bring your neighbours, and bring your family into the fold. Get your children to join us. Now, I'm a mum to a 7-year-old. Do you know that he even asked to join at 7 years old? My beautiful little boy Clifford, who's named after my late father. And because, do you know something? Asking our children to join, it's an insurance policy for their future. Now, because this is not just a political movement, this is a fight for the soul of Britain. And together we can make the country great again. So let's stand tall, let's be brave, let's be bold, let's save Britain. Let's stand up to these haters of Britain. Let's rise above that. Thank you, and may God bless Great Britain. Thank you.
Thank you, Andrea. Next, I'd like to introduce a man whose hard work kept reform afloat as a viable vehicle for change before graciously stepping down to become our deputy leader. He is the proud MP for Boston and Skegness. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome to the stage Richard Tice, MP.
I think you didn't enjoy Christmas. How are we all? Happy New Year! Happy New Year! Apart from the fastest growing political party, we're the happiest political party. I hope you had a fantastic festive season. Not bad for myself. Got a new tie. What do you think? Woo! So it's the party tie, little paisley sort of theme to it. Don't worry. We're not going to be like the Premier League football teams, changing our tie every season. However, I've got a nice new tie also. Santa delivered. He delivered a nice new multicoloured mug for me. Very kind, Santa. Thank you. Now, on it, it says, this mug is for you, me, she, her, him, they, them, us. I don't know about anybody else. I'm just after me, myself, and I. Do we need this sort of pronoun stuff in our lives? It's a lovely mug. Anyway, New Year's resolutions. We're 3 days in. I'm just about intact. I promised myself that I would try and be a little more courteous to our opponents, a little less rude. I may have broken my resolution by the end of the speech. But I do need 2 carve-outs from this resolution for people I'm going to talk about later on. It was exactly a year ago, folks, exactly a year ago, that I launched a new word in the English language, Starmageddon. Do you remember it? And everyone said, no, Richard, come on, it's not going to be that bad. He's a nice sort of chap. It won't be too bad. And he's got that lovely Rachel looking after accounts. Everyone thought I was overstating it. I thought I was almost overstating it. It turns out that I was understating it. I mean, we've got Starmageddon on turbo rockets. It's like he's jumped on Elon Musk's Starlink Express up to space. He's a nightmare. He's an absolute nightmare, but he's not the only nightmare. Because we've got a whole new language, haven't we? We've now got Reeves-ageddon. I mean, she is literally a nightmare on Socialist Street. And I think you may even hopefully see on the screen there a picture. There she is. And there she is. It's like that picture from the film Nightmare on Elm Street. And she's got the scythe. And she's scything through our economy. She's scything through our jobs. Scything through all of industry. Scything through your wallets. Taking your money. It's unbelievable what they've done to this economy. Do you remember when they said, they're still saying it, they're going to fix the foundations? They haven't fixed the foundations, they've sabotaged the foundations, ladies and gentlemen. They haven't created stability. Literally, since they came into power, the economy, basically, it's in the process of going south. The figures are out. There's no growth in the overall economy. Per person, we're getting a lot poorer, month in, month out. And I fear that this is just the beginning. And the markets also know it. You see, Labour banged on about Liz Truss and her mini-budget crashing the economy. Well, hang on. The price of 10-year government bonds when Liz Truss was around was 4.2%. At the beginning of October, when people still trusted Reeves-ageddon, it was down to 4%. It's now up at 4.6% and heading north. So the markets are worried too. She has created the blunder budget of all blunders. She's upset everybody. She's upset. She's upset millions of pensioners up and down the country. She's upset the farmers who give us food security, including in my most fertile constituency of Boston and Skegness. She's upset small businesses, charities, GP surgeons. Anybody who employs anybody has now got extra bills because of Rachel Reeves. In my view, ladies and gentlemen, she is the most dangerous woman in Britain today. I mean, she's only been in the job 5 months. God knows where we'll be in another 5 or 12 months. But that's to come. She is in the process of destroying investment and growth in our economy. But it's not just our Rachel, is it? There's another one. He's there. I mean, you know, it's like they're a couple. You've got the most dangerous woman in charge of the money, and then you've got the most dangerous man in Britain in charge of energy. Yes, Red Ed, another nightmare on Socialist Street. Is he there? Is he on the picture? There he is, with his knife, scything through jobs, scything through the car industry, thousands of jobs being destroyed as we speak. He's already finished off most of the steel industry, and he's only just started. And what does this man want to do? He wants to carpet all of our glorious, beautiful countryside with 1 billion solar panels made in China. I mean, how stupid. They bang on about food security. How do you get more food if you cover it with solar panels that don't work when the sun's not shining, which regrettably is too often in our beloved nation? Oh, no, but that's not enough. No, he wants thousands of wind turbines to be put up on our beautiful countryside. And where are the wind turbines made? China. And if it's not China, then it's overseas. It might be Germany or wherever. What you get from this is, do you get the impression that the jobs are elsewhere? Do you get the impression that the money is going elsewhere? I checked just before I came on stage. In the last week, we've imported about 10% of electricity from overseas. In the last year, we've imported about 13% of our electricity from overseas. How is that energy security when you're reliant on people overseas creating electricity and sending it on cables that who knows Putin might decide to cut at any particular moment? And all of this when we're sitting on all of our glorious energy treasure under our feet, oil, gas, shale gas, all this stuff. Why do you think America's got electricity and gas prices about 1/3 of ours? Because they use their own energy treasure. And our Wallies in Westminster, through their gross negligence, have decided to leave that treasure underground or under the sea. It's absolute, utter madness. So he is, without question, the most dangerous man to the British economy today. That's the bad news. But we have to be optimistic. We are the party of optimists, the party who believe that we can turn this around. And so I've got some good news. Might require a little patience, but it's only 4 years to go until the general election, folks. Are we going to win? You're not on form. Are we going to win? That's what we want to hear. Just look at what's going on. Oh, I nearly forgot. I'm sure Nigel will talk about it a bit later, but thanks, Kemi. You've done a great job. A year ago, I was thanking Rishi for his services to reform. I mean, these people, seriously. So that's the good news. 4 years and counting. But look where we are in the polls. No one believed it was possible. And you've got, as Matt said just a while ago, we're heading up now. 120, 150 seats. If there was an election tomorrow, it would be more. You know that. We know that. Everybody knows that. It is quite utterly remarkable. Now, back at the general election, I was criticised for our contract for what they described as fantasy economics. They said that my plan not to pay voluntary interest to enrich the city by paying interest on the printed money, we didn't need to do that. Well, they scratched their heads, they didn't understand. And then they looked again and they thought, blow me down. Tice is right. The Financial Times, The Economist, even Robert Peston. You know you're on track when Robert Peston agrees with you. Boo. No, dear Robert, we love him dearly. They had to admit that actually I was right. And then I came up with what I thought was a reasonable number for the cost of net zero at about 30 billion every year. And the Department for Net Zero said, we don't recognize that number. That pompous response is when you know that you're pretty close to the truth. You're within a bit. Now we learn from the National Grid that actually I was undercooking it. The National Grid have said it's 40 billion a year for the next 5 years. So all of a sudden, the fantasy economics don't look so stupid. And then we come to the other one. I said you could cut £5 in 100 off all council and public sector spending. And they said, no, you can't do that. There's no waste in the public sector. I'm sorry? Guess what Darren Jones, the Chief Secretary to the Treasury, did 3 weeks ago or so? He wrote to all the departments in the public sector saying, Tice is right, please save £5 in 100. So actually, I mean, copying is a form of flattery, but we were bang on the money. And I've just got a couple of bits of evidence. I mean, having been elected, we've had wonderful whistleblowers. And if you know any more, please tell them to give us a call, coming to us with examples of waste and abuse of our cash. And I just happen to have one here. It's from Department of Work and Pensions, Winter Fuel Payment Centre in Wolverhampton. It's entitled Winter Fuel Payment Claiming for Someone Who Has Died. Seriously. Dear Mrs. D, you may be able to get a winter fuel payment for the winter 2024 on behalf of the late Mrs. R. So hang on, Rachel. You stopped her payment. You might have been involved in killing her from the cold, and now you want to give the money to her kids. I mean, honestly, you weep at the utter serious, I nearly swore there, I'm so sorry, the utter stupidity of these people. I don't know how many of these letters they've written. This is a genuine letter from the Department of Work and Pensions. And then we come to the other one, my current favourite. We all need to have our little pet favourites. Some of you may adore bats. I'm not personally a great bat lover, but each their own. I know they have a place in nature. But I need to ask a serious question, ladies and gentlemen. I'm not a great fan of HS2 either. I'd scrap the whole thing. But let me tell you one thing. Would anybody here spend £1 million on a small hut for bats? Anyone? Any takers? Would anyone spend £10 million on a bigger hut for bats? Can you believe that the bosses of HS2, they spent £100 million of our money on a bat shed? I call it the batshit bat shed. I mean, honestly, this is serious. I wrote a tweet, Dear Bats, I'm so sorry, we're a bit short of cash. I do hope you won't mind, but could you just pop the other side of the wood as opposed to staying where you were? Because we can't afford a £100 million bat shed. The boss of HS2 recently said he would do it again. Anybody involved in this decision should be fired. Gross, absolute negligence and waste of our cash. So what I concluded from these mad examples, and these are just the ones we're hearing about, but we're digging in, getting more information out about the waste. What I'm concluding is my £5 in 100 was a bit cautious. I think there's a lot more to go for. And I think you do too. We sense it wherever. The waste, the abuse, I'm afraid to say, ladies and gentlemen, the corruption. We know that the good news from all of this is that actually, whilst you've got all the gloomsters and the doomsters, the people who think we're just in managed decline, I believe with competence, with common sense, with all of your help and the other tens and hundreds of thousands of people who are now joining Reform, the millions who voted for Reform, the millions more who want to vote for Reform, I believe that we can sort this out. Many of you will have been involved in businesses. A bad boss can ruin a good business in a couple of years. But the reverse is true. A good boss can rescue a business within 2 to 3 years and make it grow again. And that is the thing to hold on to, folks. Of all the challenges the country has got, and they are many, with the right courage, the right leadership, the right belief, the right passion, and the right patriotism, we can sort this out. I've absolutely no doubt, ladies and gentlemen, this is just the beginning. We're on a journey. It's an extraordinary journey. But believe in it. Help us. Campaign for us. Leaflet. Spread the word. Tell everyone. Make them bored of you telling them. Because together, I absolutely know, ladies and gentlemen, we can make this country grow again. We can make us better off again. And if we do that, ladies and gentlemen, we will make Britain great again. Thank you!
You all fired up? I'm Zia Yusuf. Let me tell you why I'm here. I love Britain. I love my country. It is time for us to stand up and write the next chapter in the great British story.
Nigel Farage has asked me to serve as chairman of Reform UK. It is my honour to accept. I will bring all my energy, all my passion to ensure we achieve our mission of returning Great Britain to greatness.
Our new chairman, Zia Yusuf, is professionalising the party at a speed never seen before in British politics. He's been charged with making this party an election-winning force. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome our chairman, Zia Yusuf.
We will turn this ship around. We will save this country. We will return Britain to being the poised and powerful country we know it can be. And we will leave a Britain for our children of which we can be proud. Thank you very much, Reform UK. Reform UK. Well, it is truly an honour to stand here before so many fake Reform members. There must be 1,000 of you here. And according to Kemi, you are nothing more than a figment of Nigel's imagination. Well, we're on a roll, aren't we? One extraordinary year it has been. A year ago, Nigel Farage was enjoying his retirement. Reform was sitting on 8% in the polls, albeit climbing fast under Richard's brilliant leadership. Rishi Sunak was still watching the boats penetrate our borders daily, choosing to do nothing. A year on, Reform is talk not just of the UK, but of the Western world. We've captured the hearts and the imaginations of millions to whom we offer hope. We've opened over 400 branches across the country. We've risen to 23% on the average of the polls. And ladies and gentlemen, Nigel Farage is now the bookmakers' favourite to be the next Prime Minister of the United Kingdom. Wasn't it an unforgettable Christmas period? Over 46,000 people joined Reform in the last 2 weeks of December alone. Just think about that. Just think about that for a moment. That is the equivalent of a third of the entire membership of the Tory party, a party which has been around for 190 years, joining Reform in just 2 weeks. Something is happening in the United Kingdom, and it is giving hope to millions across the country. But I'll tell you who didn't have a great festive period. Someone's paying attention. Someone who didn't exactly cover themselves in glory. That's right, the leader of the opposition. Inexplicably, she made the unwise decision to accuse us of faking our membership numbers. You know, she keeps calling herself an engineer. Perhaps she is, in the same way Rachel Reeves is an economist. And Keir Starmer is the son of a toolmaker. Well, she's not a very good one, because she claimed that our ticker was fake. And that she knew this because she was, and I quote, monitoring the back end. Well, I'm afraid, as has now been widely reported by reputable journalists, the only back end Kemi had been monitoring is the one that she was talking out of. Had to be done. But you know, we should in fact be very grateful to the leader of the Tory party, for in the preceding 24 hours of her ill-advised outburst, Reform UK signed up more new members than in any 24-hour period in our history. So let's give Kemi a big Reform round of applause. But on a serious note, we are gathered here because we know in our hearts that the country we love is in trouble. We live in a country which somehow, despite spending £54 billion a year on defence, the number of military-aged males that have entered the UK illegally via small boats now exceeds the total available soldiers to the British Army. Most are from Afghanistan, Syria, Iraq, and Iran. The Tories, and now Labour, have voluntarily inflicted a national security emergency on this country. But change is coming. I want you to take a moment to visualize what a triumphant day it will be when in just a few years' time, Prime Minister Nigel Farage arrives at number 10 Downing Street. In his first act as Prime Minister, he will pick up the phone to the First Sea Lord and order His Majesty's Royal Navy to see to it that not a single unauthorised vessel crossing the English Channel makes it to the shores of the United Kingdom. Now, I know it's procedure to go via the Minister of Defence, but I think Nigel should make that call himself, don't you? Our Navy will embark on a humanitarian mission to pick up those attempting this hazardous journey, ensuring nobody is harmed and that they will be taken back to France for their own safety. Under a reform government, we will leave the ECHR and replace it with a British Bill of Rights. We will pass legislation making it compulsory that anybody who comes here illegally not only will never be given the right to remain, but will be deported back to the country from which they came. If your first act upon coming to this country is to break British laws, instead of being given free accommodation and phones, you will be removed promptly and efficiently. And just for those in the BBC Verify team watching, no foreign court will stop us, because Britain will finally have a Prime Minister who will ensure that the interests of the British people come first. A reform government will also do something that Labour refused to do and the Tories failed to do in their 14 years in government. We will ensure a full, independent, national inquiry into the appalling crimes of the grooming gangs that have terrorised young girls in this country for decades. It will leave no stone unturned to ensure justice for the victims and their families. It will ensure that the monstrous perpetrators and the officials who enabled them by turning a blind eye are brought to justice and are made to pay a heavy price for their crimes. We will do the things necessary to heal this country because we're the only ones who can. Now, I've made a few jokes at their expense today, but it's no surprise that the likes of the Tories, Labour, the left-wing media look at reform's progress and think it must be fake. All their prior experience means that the level of cognitive dissonance fries their brains. All they've ever known is incompetence, division, defeatism, cynicism, self-serving corruption, resignation to manage decline. So when they're confronted with people like you, ladies and gentlemen, and people like us, when they're confronted with the Reform Party that is highly competent, that is patriotic, that is fast-moving and growing at explosive rates, they quite literally cannot believe their eyes. And I have another message for them. If you think Reform's membership growth is explosive, wait until you see what a Reform government will do to the British economy and real wages for British people. It is going to be something to behold. Now, one of the most powerful drivers behind Reform's momentum is how united we all are behind Nigel. Meanwhile, the Tories, they've had 5 leaders in 6 years. It's no surprise that Tory leaders are so weak and transient. They have to spend the majority of their cognitive capacity watching their own backs. Here at Reform, Nigel and the rest of our brilliant MPs and our team can focus all of our energies, 100% of our capacity, building a movement to make the United Kingdom a poised, prosperous and powerful country again. Because British people should be among the most prosperous in the world. Instead, we languish 26th in the world in terms of real GDP per person, real income per person. Even though we have so much going for us. 3 of the top 20 universities in the world are here. A large number of the world's finest engineers are here. And if you're in any doubt about that, just go and look at the offices of DeepMind, or look around the Dyson Institute, or the factory making Rolls-Royce aerospace engines and cutting-edge nuclear modular reactors. We have a leading position in the world in financial services, and we have the best possible time zone. And as someone who built a successful business here, I can tell you, the British people are full of talent, full of energy and dynamism. And despite successive governments' best efforts, the world's brightest and best continue to fall over themselves wanting to come here. Yet for them, we make it impossible. Sadly, it's actually much easier for a convicted murderer to get into the United Kingdom than it is for a Nobel laureate. So why is it that the British people get poorer every year in real terms? It's down to the appallingly incompetent and Britain-hating political leadership this country has endured for decades. There's the religious cult of net zero, an appalling theft of hard-working British people's jobs and money, all to fund the growth of China and the egos of champagne socialists. Speaking of which, I have a question for Boris Johnson and Ed Miliband. If renewables are so cheap, why have British people been forced to subsidise renewables to the tune of £90 billion over the last decade? That is £300 per household per year extra that they have had to pay in their energy bills out of their post-tax pay while they struggle to make ends meet. All to enrich renewable corporate shareholders. And given all they did was offshore the emissions to China and India, they did nothing to make the world cleaner. Make no mistake, this is one of the greatest heists on the British people of all time, and reform will bring it to an end. Then there's a bureaucratic state, which has ballooned to an insane size. 500,000 people are now employed in the civil service, many of whom get to work from home, all being paid on your dime. In the last 7 years, their burden on the taxpayers rocketed by 50% to £15 billion. Well, I have some news for them. In the age of AI, with competent leadership, there's no reason that couldn't be cut in half and still deliver a vastly superior service to the British people. But the problem of the bureaucratic state is much more pernicious than that. They act as a suffocating parasite, feasting on the dynamism and hard work of the British people. We have far too many regulations, far too many regulators, and nowhere near enough builders. And that is why, when Reform are in government, we will demolish the unelected, unaccountable quangos and unleash the tidal wave of potential in the British people. The reality is the two old parties have spent decades creating these problems. Labour, Conservatives, it hasn't made any difference. That's why reform is necessary. That is why reform has broken through with such breathless pace. Because in reform, British people see a real alternative. They see history being made in real time. The stranglehold that the two old parties have had on the politics of this country for a century is finally being broken. And you know, it is you, ladies and gentlemen, it is you who are responsible for that. And generations to come will owe you a debt of gratitude. Nigel gave his New Year's message from Blenheim Palace, famous for being the birthplace of Mr. Winston Churchill. Now, this is a man whose legacy has come under assault in recent years. People calling themselves teachers have sought to rewrite history and tarnish the legacy of one of the greatest Britons ever to have lived. But their efforts are in vain, for his spirit lives on. It lives on in the people in this room, those watching at home, the millions of Reform supporters across the country who know in their hearts that the time has come for them to stand up and be counted in their country's hour of need. Because at Reform we see a future in which the United Kingdom, instead of being ritually humiliated, celebrates triumph after triumph. One in which national pride radiates through the kingdom because our people achieve astonishing feats in architecture, engineering, literature, medicine, and all aspects of human achievement. One in which families are bonded together and communities thrive. One in which young people feel proud and fortunate to be a part. And that is what Reform will deliver. This is why people are joining us in such droves. Now, we're 8 days away from the 6-month anniversary from when Nigel appointed me chairman of Reform UK. We've achieved a great deal together. Our membership has grown by 146%, from 68,000 to 167,000. 168,000 is the latest number. We've gone from 0 branches in the UK to over 400 branches across the country. They're doing incredible work. We've gone from 14% of the vote share in the election in July to 23% in the average of the polls. And let me tell you this, in case anyone thinks we're in the mood to slow down. Nope, we are just getting started. Now, it's a truism in life that momentum and trajectory are far more important than absolute position. It's true in business, and it's certainly true in politics. And thanks to all of you, ladies and gentlemen, Reform has all of the momentum in British politics. But make no mistake, we still have a huge amount of work to do. And that's why we need your help. We need you to stand for us as candidates, ladies and gentlemen. In fact, there in the lobby, you'll see members of our team and Reform councillors whom you can discuss becoming a candidate. You can make a huge difference at a local level in this country. We also need you to volunteer and to knock on doors and to campaign for Reform. Will you do that for us? Well then, I will leave you with this. Hot off the press today is a new MRP poll which shows that if an election were held today, Reform would win 120 seats, closer than ever to overtaking the Tories on 157. Just think about that. We've gone from 5 seats 6 months ago to polling at 120 seats, and we've done it in 6 months. Imagine where we can be in a year, and by the time of the general election. If we work hard, the sky is the limit as to what we can achieve together. We will elect Nigel Farage as our Prime Minister. We will turn this country around and restore the United Kingdom to its rightful position as one of the greatest countries in the world. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen.
I now call the leader of Reform UK, Nigel Farage.
We are the new kids on the block. We have no experience in this Parliament whatsoever, even though some of us have tried many times over the years previously to get here. So we can't judge you from working in this place, but we can judge you from the way the outside world sees you. Believe me, folks, this is just the first step of something that is going to stun all of you. Thank you very much. Nobody on the front bench has ever worked in private business. Nobody on the front bench understands what genuine risk capital is. Hard work is the only way anybody succeeds individually, and hard work is the only way we're going to have a chance as a country to turn any of this around. We are in much deeper trouble than anybody on either front bench dares to admit. You know, for a Labour Party that couldn't define what a woman was, couldn't define what a working person was, well, after today I'm pretty convinced they can't define what economic growth is.
We believe that a society looks after its weak, but encourages everybody else to do the very best it can. We don't care about skin colour, we don't care about orientation, we care whether you share the values of this country. We care whether you obey the law, and we'll judge you on who you are. We'll judge you on who you are as a person. Isn't this what everybody wants? Is that what we're going to fight for? Can we make history? Are you going to be part of it? Thank you very, very much indeed. Thank you. Good evening, Leicester. You know, they say, never begin any speech with an apology. But you know, we advertised this event for our East Midlands members. Within 48 hours, all the tickets had gone. And so I apologise to all those people who couldn't get in here. And that's before 50,000 people joined the party in the last 2 weeks of December. We're going to need bigger venues for the future, of that there is no doubt.
And we're not only growing quickly, but you can feel the energy. You can feel the optimism. We are so far away from the uniparty, which is Labour and Conservative. I mean, look at Starmer and Reeves. I mean, they look like they go into a family funeral every day. And as for the Conservative leader, well, I'll come to that in a moment, actually. I've got to tell you, the last few weeks have been really exciting. It was a very tough phone call on the 23rd of December when I said to the young team in our London office, I'm really sorry, guys, but I think Christmas is cancelled. And they rose to the challenge. They were in the office till 10 o'clock on Christmas Day night, getting graphics, getting videos ready, because I just knew that over the Christmas Day and Boxing Day period, people would be sitting around the table, lunch or dinner, with family, with friends, down the pub, wherever they went, and reform would be a topic of conversation. I was confident that we would, on Boxing Day, go through the number of ballot papers that the Conservative Party sent out in their leadership election last year, and we did it on Boxing Day, and we've gone on 35,000 members more since Boxing Day alone. And it is something we can be very proud of, something we can celebrate, but let's keep it going. Now, all of that was wonderful until about 5 o'clock on Boxing Day afternoon, when a certain individual decided to take to X and put together a complex 5 series of tweets with misspellings and ranting conspiracy theory. Now, the person that put these messages together that said that the Reform live membership ticker, have you been watching the Reform live membership ticker? I get up at 3 o'clock in the morning just to find out how we're doing. No, some wild ranting conspiracy theorist put out on X that somehow we fiddled the numbers and that these were all fake members. And the extraordinary thing is the person who did this, whether they were in wine or not, I don't know, but the person who did this was the leader of the Conservative Party, one Kemi Badenoch. Now, I don't take kindly to being accused of being dishonest. You can call me many things, and people do, and that's fine. But don't call me dishonest. I'm not, and I never, ever have been, and I won't put up with it, and I won't take it, and nor should any of you. So, I gave her an opportunity to apologise for what has now been thoroughly disproven in the media, and she's chosen not to take the opportunity. Although, that's not surprising. She's not exactly known for her charm. So what to do? What to do? Well, it's all well and good saying sue her, but you have to prove actual harm. She hasn't harmed us. She's given us tens of thousands more members. But what I am going to do, and isn't it delightful that the Eastern Region Conference tomorrow takes place at Chelmsford Racecourse, which happens to be in her parliamentary constituency, which is good. And better than that, on the 31st of this month, we booked a big venue, and I'm going to invite all our members and supporters in North West Essex to come along, to meet me, to have a photograph. And we already have 800 supporters in her constituency, nearly 400 of whom have signed up as members. And we'll do a big joint photograph, and I'll tell her, Kemi, not only are these not fake members,
but we're now going to make this a target constituency for the next general election. You had your chance. You accused me of being dishonest. You had your chance to apologise. Well, now the gloves are off. So why is it that this party is on the up the way that it is? Why is it there is the optimism in this room? It's because we all know that Britain is broken and Britain needs reform. We know it, we feel it, and we understand it at every level. 37,000 young men crossed the English Channel last year. Nearly all undocumented young males coming straight into four-star hotels with 40 quid a week pocket money, free dental care, free medical care, whilst British military veterans sleep homeless on our streets. It is wrong, it is outrageous, it is appalling, and yet, now this will amaze you. Of all of those that came illegally in 2023, the last year for which we have figures, of all the illegals and asylum seeker claims, only 30% crossed the English Channel. Where did the other 70% come from? Well, a friend of mine has written to the Home Office. They won't give an answer unless we submit a cheque for 600 quid. The government will not give us the true figures. Well, we know it's not just on the back of lorries, it's people coming on visas and overstaying. We are being taken for a ride at every level. And until we can deport those that should not be in our country, until we can do that, and we'll never do that, being signed up to a convention for an outdated court in Strasbourg, we have to leave the ECHR and get rid of those that should not be here. And we've got the courage to say that. We've got the courage to do that, and frankly, nobody else does. And on legal immigration numbers, well, the party that promised us repeatedly net migration of tens of thousands a year in 2023 gave us net migration of nearly 1 million. And it's my view that the population explosion of 10 million, more than 10 million, in the last 20 years is the biggest contributor to our diminishing quality of life. We cannot get access to health care. Our children and grandchildren cannot get onto the housing ladder. The traffic is impossible. Nothing works anymore. There's no infrastructure. And this has been done to us, not just by Tony Blair and Labour, but it's been done to us, above all, by a Conservative Party who lied through their teeth at every single general election. And our job now is to replace them as the opposition party in British politics, and that is what we are going to do. Because what can they say? The other week at the dispatch box, at PMQs, Kenny Badenoch said to the Prime Minister, isn't it terrible? Terrible that 1,100 jobs will be lost making vans at Luton. It's all because of your electric vehicle rules and targets and fines. To which Richard Tice heckled and said, but it's your policy in the first place. To which the Prime Minister said, yes. I mean, it's not often Starmer's that sharp, I got to tell you, but he was. And it's the same on net zero. It's the same. You know, why are our businesses paying the most expensive electricity bills in the world? Look what it's doing to our manufacturing sector. Look what it's doing to our competitiveness. Look at what has been put on all of your bills over the last 20 years to subsidise foreign companies putting up wind turbines, all manufactured in China, and the same goes for solar. They are a uni party. The more they pretend to be different, the more you realise actually they're the same. They're about open borders. They're about high taxes. They're about regulation. And they're not about putting the British people first on anything. And we will put the British people first. We know what our priorities are. But above all, what we need in this country is a change of culture. We are living in societal decline, when nobody has the moral courage to stand up and do what is right for fear of being called names. The fact that the so-called grooming scandal, or shall we call it the mass rape abomination, this is all back in the news. I don't know whether you've read online some of the accounts of what happened to girls as young as 11, 12, and 13 years old. If you haven't read the transcripts online, I advise you not to, because you frankly won't be able to go to sleep. What happened in this country, and it didn't just happen in one place, it wasn't just Oldham, it happened in towns and cities all over the United Kingdom on an industrial scale. And yet, mainstream media did their best not to cover it. Keir Starmer, it would appear, when he had the big job as Director of Public Prosecutions in 2008, chose not to prosecute a grooming mass rape case. The Conservative government did all they could for there not to be a public inquiry. And Jess Phillips this week decides there is no need for a public inquiry. And the police have failed in all of these towns and cities. They dare not say anything for fear of being called racist. Our moral courage is destroying the very values upon which this once great country was built. And what we need is leadership and a party and a movement that understands and knows the difference between what is right and what is wrong, and will speak without fear, without favour. And let's have that public inquiry. Let's expose the truth, and let's make sure people in public life who allow this to happen get their jobs taken from them. It must happen. We face, of course, a number of obstacles. But the one obstacle we don't face is the talent of the opposition we face in the Labour and Conservative parties. That's the good news. We're not up against towering giants, but we have a huge amount of work to do. Here in the East Midlands, we have a whole series of elections happening right across the counties on the 1st of May. We even have some mayoral contests, and you heard from Dame Andrea earlier on today. The disappointment is she's got a sore throat. Otherwise, she would have sung Jerusalem from the stage, but that'll happen next time. So what we have to do, we have to organise, we have to mobilise, we have to professionalise. And that was why I appointed Zia 6 months ago, somebody to help me professionalise this party. And folks, we are making the most astonishing progress, but we need to make more. And we need you to help us doing that. And we've got some great new people joining us. And we've got a newbie who's joined us today. His name is Marco Longhi. He was the Conservative Member of Parliament for Dudley North from 2019 to 2024. And believe it or not, before being in Parliament, he actually had a job. No, really? Yeah, he actually had a job. He worked in business. He was successful. He'd been a loyal member of the Conservative Party for the last goodness knows how many years. Today, former MP Marco Longhi joins Reform UK. I want you to give him a big welcome on this stage.
Conference, good evening. I am a patriot, and I finally feel at home. Why am I here? I am here because of each and every one of you. I am here because of what has happened to our once great country. I am here because the party I have been loyal to over decades, in the good times and in the bad times, has lost its soul. It is unrecognizable. It has changed. I have not. The betrayals we have seen in recent years have been so huge that they eclipse any sense of loyalty I had, and believe me, I had plenty. I had to put you first. I had to put my country first, and that is why I'm here tonight. Let me ask you a question. What do you think it means to be British anymore? Is this a question? Exactly. But I'll bet if you asked your grandfather, they'd have said straight away what it meant to them. Now, there you go. I'll bet he knew. I'll bet he knew. Let me tell you, our hearts and our identity, they have been ripped apart at the altar of political correctness, wokery, and all sorts of other things. I mean, if we can't define what a woman is, how can we define anything at all? What right do we have to govern over 50% of our population? And what about political correctness? Well, let me tell you where I stand on political correctness, and make your own minds up. I stopped an asylum hotel in my then constituency of Dudley. I was the only MP to publicly refuse and make a strong statement in the chamber about this, to support the hundreds of asylum applications coming through my office, paid for by who? By all of you. Because you know what? I wanted to put Dudley people first. I wanted to put our people first. Yes, I was called names about that in the chamber, even by some of my own colleagues. But I am the person I am, and I am going to carry on saying the things that need to be said and doing the things that need to be done. They can call me all the names they want to. Totally unchecked immigration. And guess what? A housing crisis to follow. Surprise to surprise. The highest levels of tax and spend. Is that a surprise in these circumstances? A lawless society. Guess what? We've been importing huge levels of criminality into our country at a time when our own police forces, I'm embarrassed to say, are more intent on the moves of the Macarena than the moves of coming to sort out the crime they need to sort out. Our country is at a brink. So, conference, I salute you all. I salute you for your patriotism, for your courage. Someone once said to me, if you are not part of the solution, you are part of the problem. Go away from here tonight and speak to your friends, speak to your family. Let's continue growing the People's Army, marching forwards to a better future. Thank you.
Thank you, Marco. You know, I draw great inspiration from what happened in America on November the 5th. Now, I've been unwavering in my support for Donald Trump, and at times in the last 9 years, that's not always been easy. I've been in a minority of one, it would seem, in British public figures able to stand up for him, but then that's me. I don't court short-term popularity. I stand up and fight for what I believe in life, and I've always thought that Trump was the man the world needs to make it a safer and better place. And of course, alongside him is this remarkable new entrant into American politics. One Elon Musk, who I thought was a hero for buying Twitter, because all of it, Facebook, all the rest of it, if you dared to criticize lockdown, your accounts were suspended. At least with Elon, we've got free speech back. Whether we like everything he says or not, he is a hero. And I'm very pleased that he's backing our party, even if reports of his financial donations or potential donations, as put in the Sunday Times, are somewhat over-exaggerated. But if he begins to do even a fraction of what he sets out to do, to cut back the size of the administrative state in America, he will make America even richer than it currently is, and he'll provide us with the blueprint that we need, because there needs to be a complete change of culture in Britain. We've got to stop talking to young people about 4-day weeks, about work from home, about taxing the rich. We've got to encourage young people, yes, to work hard. No one succeeds in life without working hard. We've got to tell young people, we want them to go and make money. We want them to succeed. We want them to stay in our country and not to emigrate to other parts of the world. But it's becoming harder and harder, because our bureaucratic and administrative state is crushing enterprise. We're putting young people on the sick just because they've got a bout of depression. We are getting societally weaker, as I spoke about earlier, with the rape gangs as an example. But we are getting economically weaker. We are getting poorer. The higher legal immigration goes, the more gross domestic product per person goes down. Our debts are at every level, individual, corporate, national, are getting worse. Our annual interest repayments are now bigger than our defense budget. And yet we borrow more, and we borrow more, and we assume we can go on living like this forever. Folks, we can't. To save our country, we have to make Britain. We've got to make Britain great again, haven't we? We've got to make Britain great again, and we only do that by controlling our borders. We only do that by reasserting our confidence in ourselves, our history, our identity, our tolerance, and what we are and always have been as a nation. And we only do it if we reduce the cost of living for ordinary folk and make the country start making money again, stop sinking deeper into debt, get rid of this culture that it's all right to live off the state, it's all right to go on the sick, when actually we simply can't afford to go on like this. And that's what you'll get from me. You'll get plain speaking. Even if at times what I have to say is harsh, you'll get honest, plain speaking. And I'll do it from a perspective, and I think you know this, at least I hope you do, that I absolutely believe in this country. I believe in its people. I fear we've been appallingly led for the last 20, 25 years, and that this can be turned around. Do you believe we can turn this around? Do you believe we can make our country again something to be proud of? Are you prepared to stand up and get involved and join the People's Army? Please do everything you can, whether it's making phone calls, delivering leaflets, standing as a candidate. Go into the hall as you leave, sign up, become one of our activists. Let's go out and make history. Thank you very much indeed this evening. Thank you.